Welcome back, everyone. We're going to go jump back into the vlogs. This will be vlog number 8. This is a GS 350. Has some miles on it, but it's very well taken care of. We're going to bring it back to life here. It has some scratches. We're going to get rid of some swirls, gashes, stains, and a bunch of other different things on the surface of this paint. As you can see here using the light, you can see a lot of the swirls. There's about 3 or 4 areas of some real deep gashes through the clear coat. We're going to hide them the best we can, finding that balance with correcting and leaving the perfect amount of clear coat to keep the paint protected from UVA, UVB. And we're going to be coming up to one of those areas right here on the trunk that is the worst, and they are the deepest. So there's a cluster of about 7-8 deep scratches right on this little area on the trunk here. We'll take care of that. I'll show you how to remove those, or at least hide them, that you have to have your nose pressed up against the panel to even see them at the right angle. We'll take care of the B-pillars here. They need to be gone over. And then, of course, we already saw some of the swirling and scratches and just overall stains and dullness on the hood. We'll get rid of all of that. So we're going to take care of the first little area of gashes, scratches here. These are through the clear coat. Down at the bottom of this bumper here, you have to realize there is very little product, very little finish down here. So this is one of the areas where we really have to find the balance, removing or hiding those scratches, yet leaving as much clear as we can. So we're going to use our Gator Finish wet sanding kit today. So we'll put the 2000 grit on there. 2000 grit, 3000 grit, and 1500 grit comes with this kit here, and it has a sanding block that comes with as well for under 10 bucks. I'll put a link down below. This is a great starter kit. So what we're doing here with the 2000 grit, is we're working on the scratches. We're going to use the 2000 grit to knock the jagged edges from those scratches and round them out the best we can. Then we'll jump to the 3000 grit, remove the sanding marks from the 2000 grit, and go from there. With this kit, unlike the 2000 grit, which was just a hook and loop sheet, this here is pretty much similar to the 3000 grit Trizact disc. It has a little bit of cushion, some foam behind the sanding material, where if you soak it, it'll hold moisture while you're sanding. If you don't have a hand free to keep some water in the area to keep the sanding surface clear, just push down on it. It'll squeeze out some moisture. It'll help keep the surface of the sanding paper clear, and it'll give you the best cut. Also, as you have seen in many of my videos, we're going to make the second step here, stepping down to the 3000 grit. We're going to make that area a little bit wider. That helps us blend it in a bit. You just don't want to keep sanding the same areas over and over as you keep going on through the steps. It just makes the area much more visible, draws attention to it. This helps blend it in, and as you can see here, the scratches do still remain. They're through the clear. But by the time we're done polishing, it's going to be difficult, and you're going to have the perfect angle to see them. We're going to use our Flex XFE 780 3-inch polisher. I use that to spot compound all the areas I wet sand. And we're going to feature the fast correcting cream from Griots Garage from the Boss system today. This is on our charts, on our podium for our cutting cream series that we have. And I'm going to feature as many of those on the podium and in the honorable mention section as I can throughout these vlogs. The pad I have is not your typical foam orange cutting pad. I have a strong polishing pad on there, keeping in mind that we are down at the bottom of the bumper where there isn't quite as much clear or material as many other areas of the car. And we want to keep as much clear coat as we can while we're bringing back clarity and shine to the area. I really don't have a ton of pressure on the polisher, just guiding it back and forth. I have it at mid-speed here, and I'm just keeping an eye on the area. I can see as the shine and the clarity is coming back into the area, and we'll remove the residue. I'm going to bring you guys in, and we'll take a look at the area. Those scratches absolutely remain, but you would have to have your nose up against the panel or be way down here at the bottom of the car looking up using the light. From just a couple feet away, it's not very noticeable, and if you stand back up, it's hard to see it at all. So this area here is finished and we can move on. Moving right along, we're going to jump to the back lid for the trunk, and we have a cluster of scratches back here. Some very deep. As you can see, the lighter the color, the deeper the valley of that scratch is going to be. So we're going to work on this area. We'll put the 2000 grit sheet back on the Gator Finish block, and we're just going to shave a little bit of clear. We want to find the balance, just like we did on the bumper, removing some of the clear just a little bit to hide those scratches, yet leave enough clear to help guard the paint that's underneath there when we're done. It's a nice, it's something you pick up the more experience you have doing these. You don't want to go too far, take too much clear, just because you want to look good and remove those scratches. You just have to have a nice conversation with the customer and explain to him it's more beneficial to him and his vehicle if you leave the most amount of clear on there, yet hide those scratches, that you have to be at the perfect angle or the perfect distance using natural or artificial light to see those scratches. Okay, excuse the camera work here, but I do want to grab the camera and bring you guys in and show you what it looks like after this first step. From 7-8 scratches, a cluster, down to just 3 areas where you could see those deep white areas. Those are the valleys of the deepest scratches. We're going to now stop and jump to the 3000 grit. And keep in mind, as we are removing the sand marks from the 2000 grit, we're still going to be removing clear, so it's going to make those 3 areas look even better. Wet the sanding disc, wet the area, keep spraying in every once in a while to keep the surface of your sheet or your Trizact disc clear and clean. You'll get the best cut and the most even cut. If you get residue building up onto the pad, you may have some areas where it gouges and just makes your work a lot harder. At this point, some of those deeper white gashes are barely even visible, and as you can see, the area for the second step is a little bit larger than the area from the first step, as we are blending it in, as I mentioned when we were working on the bumper. So we're going to, again, grab the 3-inch polisher, and we'll remove the sanding marks completely, and we'll come in and take a look. I get asked quite a few times if you could just use a rotary or a DA and do the same thing. Well, you absolutely can, but just keep this in mind. You're going to be raising the temperature in that area quite a lot, in excess of 140, 150 degrees, while the rest of the panel that you're working on is room temperature. So the rest of the panel may be 72 degrees. That little area you're working on will jump up to 140, 150 because you're constantly going back and forth making passes instead of wet sanding. And that is a lot of stress on clear coat, on single stage, whatever you're working on. As I do in just about all the videos I do wet sanding in, I recommend you go to just try a local body shop, grab a couple panels. They're usually more than happy to get rid of some panels laying out back. Grab some horses, set them up on horses, practice wet sanding, add it to your arsenal. It's going to benefit you. It's going to benefit what you're working on, benefit your customers, and the finish on your customer's car. So as you can see here, you have to be at the perfect angle like I found right here using the light to see those horrible scratches that were there before. Alright, moving on, we're going to move to the last tiny cluster of scratches here on the driver's side door. And we're going to take care of that before we jump to removing the oxidation, some of the staining, and the swirls. I'm going to do this using one hand. I want to keep the camera in my hand, keep you guys up close for the whole process for this little section. We're starting off again with the 2000 grit. That's the grit we're going to use to work on the scratches. Just going to take the clear down a little bit, round about those edges. I'm going to remove the residue and bring you guys close as I move to the 3000 grit, and we just keep moving step by step. Looks like it's going to take my finger to get the camera to focus, but here after the first step you can see the deep gashes do remain, but that's enough clear. That's all the further we want to go here. We can't remove them all together, so why take the clear all the way down and risk damage to the layer underneath? So let's just move on to the 3000 grit And like we do in all the other patches or areas we work on, the second step is going to be a little bit larger as we blend in the area. And you saw me motioning just a few seconds back. I was just trying to remind you to stay down below the character line there at the door handle. If you don't run the sandpaper up over the edge of that character line, well, you won't sand through it. So just stay away from it. It's a better idea to tape those areas. Then you don't have to worry about them. In my old age, I get overconfident and just don't do it. But it is a great habit to get into. I do mask a lot of the areas I work on, and it's a good idea to mask the high spots, the character lines, and the ridges when you're just starting to do this process. Alright, so we're moving on to the last step here. We're going to be doing the compound with the 3-inch polisher once again, and we'll come in and see if we can get a good look, see if there's anything left from the scratch, the little scratch that we were working on. Okay, let me remove the residue, and we'll try and find the little area we were working on here. It looks pretty decent from about 1 foot, 2 feet away. So if you can't see it now, you're not going to see it when you're standing up at about 3 or 4 feet. And I'm actually having trouble finding the spot, the little area myself here, just right in front of it. I'm going to use a light, and I will find it because it's still there. And right there it is. So as you can see, still remains, but you're really going to have to look for it and search for it. So with those areas looking a lot better, with as much clear coat as we could leave, we're going to move on to the next vlog. That'll be vlog number 9 coming up, where we remove the swirls and other staining and etching. If you have any questions at all on what we did today, leave it down in the comments section. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Brian from Apex Detail. Catch you in the next video.